I wasn't sure what I was going to vlog about today, but previously when I reminisced about my college days, particularly in theater, studying drama, since then memories have come up. It's funny how these are things I haven't thought about in years, and now all of a sudden they come back to the surface, and I was thinking, ooh, I should have talked about that. Ooh, I should have mentioned that. I should have talked about that. Well, here I am. I'm going to talk about some of the things that I didn't think about last time. I mentioned that I was in the acting program, and one of the challenges was getting established, where you could get the director's confidence so that he would cast you in good roles, he or she. And I got established in my junior year. We were studying advanced acting, and the fall quarter was tragedy. We started off studying Shakespearean tragedy, and then, Greek tragedy. And then we get into Shakespearean tragedy. And I liked the meaty drama stuff. I wasn't too crazy about comedy because I thought comedy is what the insecure actors like to do because they want that immediate feedback from the audience, that laughter that tells them right then and there whether they're being a success or not. I didn't care about that. I wanted to get into... I was reading Ibsen's 12 prose plays. I wanted to do plays like Hedda Gabler or A Doll's House. Meaty drama plays. Anyways, we did the tragedy, and to be honest, I was awful. I was just awful. I didn't get it. But I got through it. At the end of the quarter, he told us to stay fresh on our Shakespearean monologues because you're going to use the monologues again when you come back after Christmas break. So stayed fresh means we would rehearse it once or twice a week just to keep the lines fresh in our head. So we came back from Christmas break and he picks three. It's comedy. We're studying comedy. Okay. He picks three people from the class. It's the first day. He says, I want each of you, one at a time, to go up on the stage, use your Shakespearean monologue, your tragic monologue, but be funny. One by one, they jumped up on the stage. They knew what they were going to do. Antics. Making facial expression, trying to be funny. No one laughed. We just kind of sat there feeling embarrassed for them. Total failure. One of them, the third one, he quit halfway through. He could just see it wasn't working. And then the professor, the director, Stan, got up on the stage and he said, that's what I want you to understand, that you can't be funny. Comedy isn't about being funny. A comic character is a serious character. He's serious about himself. And the example that I always like to use is Peter Sellers when he was doing Inspector Clouseau. Clouseau was hilarious, but he believed in himself. He really thought he was a skilled and competent detective or inspector. He believed in himself, but he was a bumbling fool and you couldn't help but laugh at him because of that. He was just so inept, but he believed he was the best. So anyways, if I wasn't picked for a demonstration, a lesson in the class like I wasn't that time, what I would do is I would go home. I had the luxury of my own apartment back then in college. I would go home and I would do the scene. I would do the lesson on my own in my apartment just to work through it, to get the benefit, to learn what it was that we were supposed to be learning in class. So I used my tragic monologue and worked it all out, made my character, and I had a lot of fun with it. Well, we get to class on Wednesday, our next class, and he asks the class, who here wanted to do their Shakespearean monologue? Funny, but they weren't chosen. Well, everybody in the class just kind of slunk down in their seat because they saw what happened in the previous class. 3 embarrassments up on stage. They didn't want to be humiliated. Well, I jumped up out of my seat. I'll do it. I was ready for it. And other people are looking at me like, oh, he's brave, because they saw what happened last time. Well, see, I had it all worked out. I had done enough of it, and I understood it, that I just launched into this character who was really, he was a fool. He was basically a fool. And it was college, so there was some college days, there was some sexual innuendo in there. But I played it to the hilt, and they laughed. They laughed, they laughed, they laughed. That wasn't the end of it. Okay, the scene was done very well, and he said that's the point that I wanted to discuss today. One of the keys to comedy is incongruity. You've got this king, but he's acting like a fool. That's the incongruity. It's what doesn't work, or it's what works to be funny, but it doesn't fit. And that misfit, like Clouseau, it's what's funny. Well, one of my friends from one of my other classes, one of my design classes, was in the drama office, the home office, central office, when the director, Stan, got back to the office. And he lamented, "Oh, I can never laugh in comedy class ever again. I'm ruined. I can never laugh again." And he proceeded to go on and tell them what I had done. "Dennis did the funniest thing I've ever seen in comedy class. I'll never see anything as funny again." And my friend came and told me this. Well, that was how I got established. After that, he had full confidence in me. When he cast me in a play, he let me take over sometimes. Like we were doing Much Ado About Nothing. I was playing Antonio, I think it was Antonio. And it's one of the early scenes. And Leonardo, my brother, comes on stage and he says, "Brother, have you seen the musicians?" And he would just kind of wander on stage. "Brother, have you seen the musicians?" And I'm telling him the story that the prince is interested in his daughter, Bianca. And it was supposed to be a funny scene. And it wasn't working. And Stan tried different things, and he finally said, "The comedy just isn't working. Do it straight. It'll be okay straight." And I said, "No." I said, "The comedy is there. We just have to find it. We have time. Let's do it." So I said to Dan was playing Leonardo. I said, "What's happening today? The prince is going to show up this evening. You've got 101 things to get in place because you're playing this big ball. And where are the musicians? Are they off getting drunk somewhere? You've got to have musicians for your ball tonight. You are on the verge of panic. Come rushing onto the stage. Brother, have you seen the musicians?" And then I launch into this slow monologue. "No, but I have something you might be interested in knowing." And he's, What? "This prince I overheard through the hedge today." And I go into this long, slow story. And he's trying to get me going because he's got all these things to do. Well, that's what made it work. See, we found the comedy. And again, incongruity. This guy in a panic and me just taking all the time in the world, making it even worse for him. One of the best things I did, I got to say, we were doing As You Like It. And there's a scene in As You Like It where we called it the deer killing scene. We're basically I'm one of the forest lords. We were the lords of the court, but the Duke and us have been overthrown by Duke Frederick. We've been exiled to the forest. We're penniless. We have no land. We're living off the land. We're doing the best we can. And we've got a lot of time on our hands. So we play in the forest. And in this scene, we play pretending to kill a deer. One of the guys comes on stage wearing some antlers, and he prances around the stage in these antlers like he's a deer. One of the guys holds up a crossbow and pretends to be shooting, and he falls down to the ground. I'm supposed to go up to him and grab his head and slit his throat. That's what you do with a deer. You have to bleed it before you can use it for food. Well, Stan said, "What I want you to do is I want you to come onto stage with your hands covered in stage blood and a bloody knife, but kind of keep your hands hidden. And then when you do the slashing the throat bit, then hold your hands up with the blood and the bloody knife for the effect of it." And I said, "But Stan, you know what happens next in the scene. Our little play is broken up by the characters coming onto stage, and then we have to launch into a song. What shall he have that killed the deer? His leather skin and horns to wear. Take thou no scorn to wear the horns. It was a crest ere thou wast born." I said, "Stan, I got to sing to the men in the audience about being cuckolded," which is a term that people, if a man was cuckolded, it meant his wife cheated on him. She committed adultery, and horns would grow out of his head, but he couldn't see them. but everybody else could. That was the belief back then, the superstition. So it was an embarrassment that people could see your horns. You couldn't see them, but they could see your shame. So I said to Stan, what's going to be the connotation of me singing to men who have been cheated on and pointing to them with bloody hands? I said, it's just, how's that going to read? Oh, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I said, well, would you be interested in another idea? Well, he trusted me. So he said, yeah, what have you got? What have you got? I said, get a baby Fresnel, which is a lighting instrument, and put it up in the fly loft right above that scene, the knife scene. Put a deep red gel in the filter, a color filter, in the lighting instrument, in the Fresnel. And when I do the slicing, bring the stage lights down by, say, half, and bring up that lamp, that light, so that when I hold up my hands are clean, no blood, but I'll be bathed in this big cone of bright red light. Well, he loved it. And that's what we did. And the effect was magnificent. I didn't care about the effect. What I cared about is I didn't have to come on stage with stage blood on my hands, because I was worried, what if, when I went backstage afterwards to try to wash it off quickly, what if I couldn't get all the coloring out? And for the rest of the play, I'm walking around with red hands as if I have some kind of ugly rash on my hands. I was worried. So that solved the worrying. So those were some of the things that happened in theater that really, it made it a lot of fun. And one of the things we would say about theater is that the real fun of theater was not being before an audience. I mean, yeah, it was nice to hear them laugh. It was nice to hear them applaud. Sometimes you'd get a standing ovation if you were really good that night. But the fun was the rehearsals, because in those rehearsals is where you solve problems and you get creative. You discover new ideas. And that's where all the growth is. Once you get to the performances, you're basically just repeating what you've rehearsed dozens of times, what you've memorized. It's that growth period of the rehearsal where you're developing new ideas, you're solving problems, you're being very creative. That's what we liked most about the theater. So I'm sorry if I bragged a little bit, if I was a little bit overly boastful, but those are some of the better memories from my theater days. If you like my vlogs, feel free to subscribe to my channel.